to another day of SSL Premier. Today is a good day for some StarCraft. We have a bunch of great games coming at you specifically later on in the day. I'm Valdez. With me is Reed.
As Budget Wolf.
Yeah, Wolf is, you know, he's
I also have a
AFK.
caster name, Raffit, too.
Yeah.
So.
Raffid?
I did about as good a job introducing myself as you did. It's good to be back. I think we're going to be seeing a lot of me here. Wolf is AFK outside the country, and while he is, I will be here in his chair, not wearing his shirt, though. We already went through that ordeal earlier today.
You got like a little bit more detail, I guess. You got the stripes going on. I kind of got just the plaid. Well, not plaid.
I got to work on my tie game, though.
Basic. We do have the same tie, at least. Mine's a little bit tighter.
This is true. Also, they really wanted to give me this like Superman curl in the front of my hair.
It's looking good.
I can't control this, guys. I just sit in the chair, and they make me look way better than I usually do. So our job here is to make the players look way better. No. They look really good already. And we actually have, like Brendan alluded to a little bit earlier, some super sick games here today. My big question is, how good does Innovation look? He looked super sick, and then he like got bopped last week. I'm like, oh.
I mean, he's got
okay,
an easy
that can
matchup.
happen.
He's going up against Biel in our second match.
Yeah,
Biel currently 0-6, so I am definitely favoring Innovation in that one.
If you guys watched the After Hours with Wolf and Valdez, that was Wolf's bop the Zergling off of his hand matchup. So I think Biel can put up a little bit more of a fight. That's just going to be one of my fun matches to watch.
They had a really good matchup in Season 1, right? Yeah. It was very close. They had an extremely close game on Overgrowth 2 where Biel was doing crazy muta stuff and backdooring and stuff like that. So maybe he can bring in a little bit more of that play into his match.
Maybe he can, Valdez. Well, our first matchup of the night is going to be aLive versus Deer. aLive is also kind of struggled.
Classic.
Oh,
not Deer. I know they're both Protoss. It's, you know, easy to get mixed up sometimes.
What I'm looking forward to is seeing whether or not aLive can climb back up in the standings. Later on, we get to watch Hero, a Protoss that just stomped through Challenge last season and qualified, and seeing if he can make it up through the standings, because right now he is just like way down there. So, yeah, really kind of interesting to see players that really excel in lots of other tournaments, other leagues, really kind of struggle here in SSL Premier against kind of the same players that you would expect to see their results be very similar against. So different things happen. Yeah,
I mean, we do have kind of a different format, but if you're alluding to Hero, he looks so good in Classic, which has a similar format, right?
Challenge.
You come on down, Challenge. We do that so many times down here.
Enough.
But it was a similar format, and he did very well there. He got out in first place, and now he comes in here, and I guess the competition is just a little bit better at it, I suppose, in Premier.
I think so.
It's funny the way that works.
Yeah. Different tournaments have different results.
Yeah.
It's interesting you said Hero and SSL Classic. I was actually looking up today because there's a bunch of different heroes. There's like Liquid Hero, Root
There is
Hero.
a Hero in Classic, isn't there?
Yeah. So there's a Hero in Classic. Actually, there's another Liquid Hero that played Brood War as well. I was actually just figuring that out earlier today. He was one of the early members of Team Liquid back when they were a Brood War clan, and he was more commonly known as Froz, if you guys know where that name from way back when, who also went by Liquid Hero. So there's a lot of heroes out there, 2 Liquid Heroes, 1 by Hero, and a Hero playing for Root Gaming here today.
Yeah. And I'm glad you gave us the history of Hero. It's definitely one of our more. It's our very common name that we have down here in Korea. Even across the world. I mean, this name gets used so many times.
Is really popular for players to open up and look at for a word.
I guess so. It's like right in the middle, kind of like near the beginning middle, maybe a third through. Yeah. I'm not 100% sure.
I don't know.
Quick, what's the number of H?
Is
I think it's like 11. Something like that?
If that's right, then Brendan was counting
like
on air game.
A, B, C, D, F, G,
I'm not counting on my fingers,
H.
man. They don't pay me to know which letter in the alphabet comes where. My numerology is a little bit off. I know that 3s and 7s are good, but that's about it.
I've heard that too. 8's pretty lucky in Asian culture as well. China means, good fortune in terms of money as well. And 4 is not a good number, which is why you see F instead of 4 in your apartment buildings.
That's so strange.
Because it means death.
Also, I just got a new OnePlus 5 phone, and they skipped the OnePlus 4. Even though OnePlus 4 equals 5, you can't have the word 4 in a phone made in Asian countries. So
So did they just do 1 plus 3 and then 1 plus 5?
Yeah, but 1 plus 3 equals 4, so I'm not sure about that logic either.
It's
so I don't understand how these things happen. However, thankfully, we do have StarCraft to talk about instead of bantering about numbers and bones. And it's going to be really exciting, and here to show exactly how things are going to go.
Okay, continue, Rapid.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Where are we going?
A little bit new to casting Premier. Didn't know we were going to have that VCR, but here we go. An introduction to our first two players, aLive versus Classic. I think I said Deer a little bit earlier on, but yeah, aLive's already played Deer once this season, and Deer took him out. Now he gets to take on maybe a little bit of a stronger Protoss here. Classic, been doing a lot of innovation.
Yeah, he has been. Innovation is like the one guy who doesn't innovate, funnily enough.
Oh, yeah, that is kind of weird.
He's like, oh, that build's good, I'll just do it better than everyone else. But, yeah, I mean, both of those Protosses are extremely strong, and aLive definitely is the underdog coming into this one. You guys can see the standings right here. aLive down at 2 and 4. He is going up against Classic, who is at 4 and 2. Although Classic is not dominating up at the top compared to some of the other Protosses ahead of him. Stats and Deer on top at 5 and 1.
Yeah, I wouldn't say dominating. It's a very Protoss-heavy top end of the SSL Premier, which is kind of interesting because you'll see that mirrored in other leagues where the Protosses are kind of struggling. But here, guys like Classic have been doing very well. And ironically, Terrans, whenever they face Protoss and SSL Premier, have been struggling. So I would say that classically, maybe Classic, a little bit of a favorite for today's games. But aLive has a chance. And that's why you and Wolf both gave him the possibility to take one game, but maybe not to take the whole set.
Yeah, and even that possibility is going to be hard for him, I think. The first map we're going into is Abyssal Reef. aLive is 0-6. On Abyssal Reef. He picked it as his second map. He's wished it. He's tried for Abyssal Reef 6 times, and he's gotten it every time, but he's lost every time on Abyssal Reef, which is kind of funny to see. Yep.
You can see there the results of our Facebook fan poll. If you guys didn't know that that was going on, if you go to the SpoTV Games Facebook page, you can vote with your likes on their posts there, and those will show up at the front of every broadcast for each of our matches. So you can go do that there. I think it might be in Korean, but you get the idea. You like the player that you think is going to win, and of course lots of people voting for Classic here tonight.
Yeah, it's a cool way to interact with the stream if you're just outside and watching every day. Well, here we go. Let's introduce our first player aLive. He had a very rough start, being taken out by Dark, Innovation, and Stats 0-2. He was looking to be our punching bag, but then he took out Solar and Hero, a couple of very strong players, and he looked a little bit better until he fell to Deer in Week 6.
Yeah, and losing to Deer does not set him up very well to deal with Classic. Maybe he's taken the time off this week. Not time off because he's played, I think, 3 tournaments already just this week. And now he's coming into SSL Premier and has to play the same matchup that he struggled with last week. aLive was kind of poised, especially after his GSL Super Tournament finish, to do very, very well. He was going to break into the upper echelon of Terran players, and then he just kind of struggled after that. Gumiho, meanwhile, really did skyrocket ahead of him, and I'm waiting to see whether or not he does struggle through and break into the upper tier of players, but he has traditionally struggled against Protoss, and, well, that's who he has to play today.
That was a really long camera shot we got of aLive. His eyes were going back and forth. He was putting a lot of thought into the series, no doubt.
The camera on.
He's like, what is going on? He's getting irritated. But here's Classic. He's 4-2. He's in a pretty good position to make it actually to the upper echelons before playoffs, which is always very important. You want that really high seed when you go into gauntlets. And as you guys can see, he has aLive up here tonight, and then he's got Hero next week, and then Innovation to finish it off. He's definitely a favorite against against aLive and Hero, and I think he's even got a decent shot against Innovation, who's struggling a little bit in SSL Premier Season 2.
It feels kind of strange to say Innovation is struggling anywhere. I think coming off of the GSL versus the World Tournament last week, maybe he was a little bit fatigued from that. I mean, he kind of just won the whole thing and took home a giant wad of cash, so we'll see how he does this time around. But while Classic has to worry about that Terran player later on, he's got to worry about this one right now. And so even though the fan vote was massively in Classic's favor, we'll see if aLive can take him down.
Yeah, so guys, let's hop into game number 1 on Abyssal Reef, aLive versus Classic right now. Fly, better fly. Jin Air.
All right, I can never tell when we're going to do that. But welcome, ladies and gentlemen. This is aNLeSoc, a.k.a. aLive, playing for My Insanity in their sick blue jersey.
Yeah, his opponent, it is Classic. Still looking around. He's wearing that SSL t-shirt for now. Perhaps if he gets a pretty good result, I'm sure teams are already looking at him.
Yeah,
but he's doing very well so far.
If he shows good games, maybe his fans will cheer for him too.
Maybe some team owners will cheer for him as well with more than just their cheers. Or perhaps also a team spot. Would be cool to see.
And here we go, a probe out onto the map. For what we do not know. I've seen a lot of Protoss players go for not necessarily always a scout. They try to block the expansion, and they realize Terrence can build command centers everywhere. And if you've heard about Classic lately, it's probably because he's kind of brought back this triple Stargate play. That's against Zerg, but I would still expect to see him go for that same style here against aLive Stargate openings. The hipster thing to do these days.
I've been seeing a bunch of Terrans complaining about it as well, and I feel like it was Haas that really debuted it.
He was ahead of his time, man.
I think that might have been at Shanghai that I was casting, or maybe it was like Katowice. I don't remember exactly.
He did it a lot in the qualifiers for Shanghai, not this one, but the previous Shanghai tournament. If you remember that open mouth Agog meme.
Exactly, yeah.
That's
when he did it.
From.
And it was against Terran.
Yeah.
So it's definitely still possible, especially if they do not get a good scout with the Reaper. You know, they go in there and they can't get a follow-up scout for seeing the other two Stargates. It's definitely hard, whereas the Zerg does have a bit of a better option, especially if he goes for Overlord speed to try to get those Overlords, sneak them into the back, and try to deal with it.
Love the scouting
at least get
there.
The scouts.
Yeah, I love the scouting there by aLive with his SCVs, just going around to the third to say, hey, well, where is any proxy location? He actually didn't scout all the way around the arc, and there's a really common proxy spot right up there. So he's going around checking, making sure that this is not some weird kind of opening. Maybe saying, hey, if we play a standard game, that's where his advantage lies.
Yeah, aLive, you know, he's been struggling in dealing with, I don't know why there's 5 probes on that gas, by the way, that's a mistake, but he's definitely been struggling with dealing with proxies, with dealing with normal play, and I feel like just getting his feet underneath him to start the game is a good start for him. And I just love this meticulous scouting, as you were mentioning, just to make sure that the game starts off on good footing. He is sending that Reaper back over to the base of the Protoss. We'll see if he can get a scout on the Stargate, but it is way in the corner, and Classic is very ready for this scout.
Indeed he is. Sometimes it feels like with Protoss, it's almost more valuable to scout outside their base than inside their base, just because there's so many places they can put things like you know, hidden dark shrines or proxy tech near your base. Feels like we started out SSL Challenge with you and I with the craziest of Protoss proxies from SOS, yeah. But this is Classic. He's definitely more of a straight-up player, but very standard opener for sure. Going to have the first couple of depths. Oh, actually shading backwards.
That was a sick play.
Just in time.
He saw it coming, and he prepared for it, but uh-oh, this Reaper gets in. That last auto attack did not go off from the Reaper, or rather from the Adept, and he does get the scout in here. These Hellions shouldn't get all too much damage done, as one is about to go down. Might get a couple of shots.
Yeah, they're going to get a few probes here. Could have killed that last one, but stutter stepped a little bit there. Hellions go down. It's a nice, cool opener. And Cloak Banshee is coming up as a follow-up. I feel like most of the time after this, we see a transition into more like the battle mech style, but the Cloak is an interesting adaptation I haven't seen yet.
We've been seeing it a bunch over here in Premier, you know, out of guys like Maru and other Terrans where... Nice dodge here, by the way, by Classic. Spots that Widowmine. But what they do is they go for the Cloak Banshees as a response because with this Protoss build, you don't have a lot of detection. You only have it on the Oracles, but you need to have them back at home. And, you get one tag on the one Cloak Banshee, then you need a second Oracle. But what if you're going for a Void Ray, as is Classic is doing right now? So this Banshee already across the map. We'll see what Classic does have. I'm going to check on my Observer PC. It does have the second Oracle back here. Looking for it. But actually flies past, and here comes the Banshee in. There's no detection right now. Oracle not in position.
Yeah, so several probes are going to go down here. It's going to force a full pull all the way out there. The first one will get revelated and taken out there.
Ooh.
Yeah, it turns out Void Rays are not what they used to be, Valdez.
Yeah. You got to think, right? You were talking about that Void Ray. Some of the Protosses go for a Phoenix follow-up to deal with this, but he decided for the Void Ray, and because of that, he will not be fast enough to chase the Banshee, which does survive.
And now you're going to really have to keep up on your Oracle energy. Might even force Classic to pull back his second Oracle. And yeah, there we go. Both Oracles at home waiting for the Banshees to strike. There are two of them because that last one didn't die. And I'm glad you mentioned the Phoenix follow-up. A lot of times it's Oracle, Phoenix, then Void Ray. Oh, all right. Well, that's one way to deal with Banshees. You research the cloak, and then you just don't hit that button. But here we go.
Yeah, the multitasking failing aLive a little bit in that situation. And this one does get revealed, but it gets away.
Those Oracles desperately trying to tilt their spacecraft upwards to shoot the laser into the air.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, Protoss
How
technology...
sick would that be if Oracles could fight against air units?
Just haven't invented that one yet. StarCraft 3. Yeah. Actually, with StarCraft Remastered launching today, you can build scouts that do shoot anti-air.
Basically the same thing, right, Rapid?
Well, definitely not, Valdez. You want to try to kill a ground unit with a scout in StarCraft Remastered, it's going to take like 10 auto attacks. Ugh.
Yeah.
Not what you want to do. But definitely Oracle's better at harassing in that regard. And here we go, a cheeky pylon thrown way down there as our first push comes out from aLive.
The probe is not going to stay around, which makes me think it's just going to be for some harass as a follow-up at the third base, which he is scouting. But this attack is coming across the map. As you were talking about, we do have +1. The stim is ready, and Combat Shields is also done, looking to harass a bit with his Banshees at other different bases at the same time. It looks like he wants to hit the natural.
Yeah, it's all about denying either a third base or, especially if Protoss do expand northwards, that's what that can crush. Now, tons of mines here, and this is a pretty common push from Terran versus Protoss. We've seen, I think, Bunny do the same thing, and he's had lots of success in SSL this season. We've got aLive here trying to do a nice timing, but wisely holding off.
That Void Ray didn't chase the Banshee. It's coming in here and getting a bunch of free kills, and it still has the cloak. The revelation ends, and those Oracles are not flying into the main to deal with this. He's getting so much damage done.
So confused is that. Also, supply depot down, just little things on both sides.
Oh boy.
Really giving both players the advantages that they need here. And finally, it looks like that Banshee will be taken out, but not before massive damage done by these Adepts in 2 locations to aLive.
Yeah, it's funny that at the end of the day, you were mentioning mistakes by both players, but it looks like the mistakes of aLive will affect him a little bit more. And it looked like the multitasking not really working out for him again, decided not to push more at the third base, said, okay, I don't have enough stuff. He couldn't group up his stuff and try to get damage done while mitigating the damage that Classic could do. So had to just back off and begin trying to resaturate his third base. He's only sitting at 47 SCVs currently. But Classic is going to get a ton of space from this. You know, aLive really did not too much damage. You know, he got a bunch of probes with his Banshee, but the big follow-up, Classic already back up to 65 probes. He's getting his 4th base really unpressured. He's putting stasis wards everywhere.
Yeah, the stasis wards haven't really locked anything down, but what it does do is really keep the Terran on his toes as he pushes. And I love the consistent committal by Classic to this economic harass. It forces aLive to stay back at base. That +1 stim timing just totally non-existent, and great economic done. Classic really on top of this game, and it certainly looks like poised to enter this mid-game with a big advantage. Oh, I thought it was going to sneak by the stasis ward.
Yeah, that's one way to stop harass, I suppose. Wouldn't be quite as good against a drop, I guarantee it, but you guys can try it if you want to stack 4 stasis wards. I won't judge. But yeah, Colossi on the way. He's teching up the Storm. You know, he's getting that Templar Archives to start. He's getting all that Twilight tech as well. And finally, we're going to see aLive try to push out and put on some pressure once again.
This push is going to hit right before Thermal Lance ends, and okay, you don't want to pull your whole army back for a couple of Adepts. I mean, it is important to save your base from all of this economic damage, but I really feel like this is neutering all of the pressure that aLive has out on the map. Classic, just with 2 or 3 Adepts each time, forcing aLive's entire army to come back.
You're exactly right. I mean, I heard the Korean casters even with a big groan, because anyone who's watched a ton of StarCraft, as we all have, we know what that means for the Terran right now. You're letting the Protoss get all of this tech that you're eventually going to have to run into, and we're not exactly sure if aLive will have the answer. He's getting a lot of Liberators, still a Liberator range.
My face when the way you kill the Warp Prism is 4 Liberators chasing it.
Well, you got to do what you got to do.
I mean, this is true. I feel like that's like the Tumblr saying, you know, wherever you are, there you are. I don't remember how it goes, but it's one of those platitudes. It's like saying you can tell by the way it is. I mean, yeah, it's like the preamble of the Constitution. We hold these truths to be self-evident. Valdez.
Yeah.
Just like Liberators being pretty good units. There we go. Blink forward. No bio there. It just pulled back, and so he's going to lose 3, I think, Liberators right there. He'll set up some more as they come in, but looks like Classic at the same time looking to come back in and go for even more economic harass. Luckily, the wall has been raised, which also applies to this most recent episode of Game of Thrones.
What?
Just kidding.
Did you get me with that again? I think you did. I haven't seen the last 2 episodes.
Oh,
actually, I know you haven't watched any of them.
I haven't watched any of them. I'm just throwing this out there.
I don't know why.
So for anybody that thinks I just spoiled anything, I don't know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Just doing it for the memes. Well, here we go. We've got some meme beams shining all over aLive's dreams.
Yeah.
Classic finally gets his big mega push out through the middle of the map.
He's trying to spoil aLive streams here. That's what he's looking to do.
Well, I think Classic spoilers might be a little bit more effective here, Valdez, as he has great angles. He's going to be able to just laser down this whole army. And after linking forward to take out these Liberators, there just aren't very many. I think there's a total of 2 with Ghosts coming out. Even those will be a little bit too late.
Big blink and storms on everything in the front. That pushes the bio back and basically says, you know, do you want to lose your bio or do you want to lose your Liberators? And he had to make a choice. Let go of his Liberators. We do have Ghosts coming out to deal with these storms. Maybe if he can land the money storm.
That's 2 kills, not cancels, on those. I think that was a cancel or a kill, right? On that.
I believe
center.
It was. Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Okay. So I think one of them was a kill, though. Not totally sure, but lots of economic damage being done, denying that 4th base from ever coming up, breaking down these big depot walls, and most likely going to crush through this 3rd.
I like what aLive is trying to do. I just feel like it's a little bit too late. A big sort of doom drop, a mini doom drop, if you will, into the natural. Yeah.
Ugh.
It's just too little too late, you know?
It's like aLive has all these great pushes he can do. Oh my god, that Widowmine hit looked pretty sick, but probably not sick enough. Right as these Vikings come out, they're going to try to take down the Colossi, but just not enough. Or is there...
They're trying.
Marauders are pretty good units.
Those units on the ramp weren't attacking for so long. GG, that's going to do it. Classic takes game number 1, and that is aLive's 7th loss on Abyssal Reef.
Indeed, it is not his map. Those units on the ramp kind of indicative of aLive that game. They just kind of never wound up attacking. He had so many opportunities, but each time Classic was able to pull him back towards his own base. He took too much economic damage and ultimately led to Classic's inevitable victory.
Yeah, I mean, we talk about the strengths of aLive sometimes.
Yeah.
He loves to
Every
drop.
once in a while.
He loves to get into the Protoss's base and do that economic harassment. We saw him do it multiple times with the Banshees. It was a nice response to the Oracles. He tried to go for some drops and some pushes, but as you said during the game, it's like 2 or 4 Adepts were all it took for Classic to say, hey, I guess I'm going to get a bunch of free tech. So aLive, he's going to have to really pull it together for the next one, because he needs to do that damage with his pushes, and he needs to be able to deal with the harassment from the Adepts.
I concur. I completely agree with everything you've been able to say. Adepts are pretty good, especially the way that Classic uses them. That proxy pylon, just keep warping in 2 by 2, loading them into aLive's Noah's Ark, except that time they were not there to survive, they were there to kill. And kill they did, many times.
I mean, we saw that pylon coming up when Classic had just taken his 3rd base, I think. Or he was about to take his third base. It was all planned, right? I mean, that's a pretty common strategy that we see nowadays in PvT.
All according to Classic's Keikaku. It means plan. Now we're coming into game number 2, which hopefully goes according to aLive's plan. Otherwise, he is going to continue his history of struggling and will also ruin both yours and Wolf's predictions. Classic's 2-1. Classic just way too dominant. Let's go ahead and get into game number 2. Watch it peeling off the broken bones at the discount sold forever.
Here we go, game number 2 on Odyssey.
And we don't shout out Janair for game 2.
Yeah, no, only for the first one.
I'm figuring it out.
This is aLive.
And this is Classic. And indeed, he will be up 1 game coming into this series. I feel like this has been a common theme for Classic. It's been doing pretty well. Versus Terrans, let's put it that way. Kind of struggling versus Zergs a little bit lately, even with his kind of innovative builds. See what aLive wants to innovate on. I feel like the real difference that we need to see is a committal to a push. It felt like he was always a little bit timid to hang back. First it was the Stasis Wards, then it was Adepts in his base, and he was like, well, I just got to stay back home. It's like my logic growing up. It's always finding some excuse to stay home more.
You got to play your games.
Indeed.
That's what you got to do.
I do, and so does aLive.
You weren't the only one, but I think I would have to agree with you. I think aLive has to commit to 1 push and say, this is going to be it. I'm going to try to kill you with this, or commit to a strategy that he won't just drop at the drop of a hat or at the drop of 4 Adepts. And yeah, definitely the big key coming into this one. Odyssey, another big 2-player map. Doesn't have all those crazy ramps and chokes that Abyssal Reef does have. It's a little bit more open. There is a bit of a more accessible main by drops for the Terrans, so perhaps aLive could take advantage of that.
Gateway expand for Classic. Very, I guess, classic opener, for lack of a better word. Good, I don't want to say block of that command center, because you can build it anywhere, but waiting until the probe was out of there to throw that one down. I think these are basically the most standard openers on both sides for both players. We'll get up those early expansions, and again, committal by aLive to just scout around and make sure there's no proxies. Once again, he did miss a very popular proxy location right up to the north in that 3rd location, but either way, at least he's out there looking.
It's like half-hearted scouting, you know?
It's like,
I'm gonna scout all the more greedy locations, and I'm just not gonna scout the more popular, better proxy locations.
I think the choice this time around is just to send the Reaper in and make sure that everything looks good back in the Protoss space, and that will work in lieu of scouting for proxies. But it's going to be the same build once again here for Classic, the Stargate opener. Basically the best PvT build that you see out there, aside from any wacky proxy shenanigans. Reaper, will he get his 1 cheeky probe kill? Indeed he will. Wow.
And he gets up the ramp, or the cliff rather, but he does get put in the coffin at the same time as it goes down and splits into 1,000,000 pieces. Not sure if you guys saw that.
I don't think Reapers,
on the real PC.
I don't think Reapers get coffins, because isn't the pretense for them being drafted into becoming a Reaper from being a convict is that this is their choice? Either I think they're death row convicts. I know that Firebats were that way.
I would like to believe that they get coffins anyway.
Well, I don't think anybody's coming back for that Reaper, man.
Perhaps not. We are in a state of war here on
Odyssey.
Odyssey.
Sick Marine micro, but this could be too much damage. He's going to kill every Marine here.
Nice micro out of Classic, too, but I think aLive definitely got the better of that. Engage, 2 for 1, trading 2 Marines for 1 Adept.
That definitely could have snowballed out of control. If you kill all those early Marines, the Adepts suddenly go wild. They keep that natural from coming up for a long time, and can keep...
Adepts gone wild, man.
Indeed.
Some people want to see that, but this is definitely not
late night
aLive.
StarCraft. Here we go. No hope of turret being up there. I don't want to call that a Pult Viking necessarily, but it's going to be good enough to push this back into the mine. Beautiful placement by aLive.
That was a sick placement by that Widowmine. It came behind the Oracle after the Oracle went in. I think it was meant to be there for when the Oracle actually flew in, but did its job at the end of the day anyway. So we can
probe versus discharged Widowmine. He just watches the barrel.
Got the scout.
Yeah, it's like, oh, okay, there's a mine there.
And because he dealt with the Oracle so easily, it looks like he's not going to commit to the Cloaked Banshees this time. It definitely did delay his push in game number 1 at the 3rd base, so maybe this time he wants to get it online a little bit faster and really commit there. You can see he's already going for the double tech lab. He's going to get +1 in just a second with that completed engineering bay. Eventually, okay, there it is.
There it is. All right, right on time. And so this is once again going to be the push. He's going to get all 3 of these upgrades to hit at the same time with a bunch of Marines and push out across the map to try to deal terrible, terrible damage. He never made it in game number 1, so that's step number 1. Make it to the opponent's side of the map and do stuff. I'm trying to break it down a little bit here.
Definitely.
This is my Lucio analysis.
Yeah. This is a funny little Marine. Maybe going to take that watchtower. Nope. Turning around. That Viking's been on patrol up in the top side. A pretty wonky place for the Stasis Ward as well. Over towards the left side, trying to catch aLive unawares.
I feel like with Widow Mines and Stasis Wards, that's what it's all about these days. It's like trying to mind game your opponent and put things in interesting places. Speaking of which, we've got not 1 but 2 proxy pylons being put out on the map. Classic going to try the same strategy of waiting for aLive's push to come out and then hitting him with his Adept Harass behind it.
He doesn't have a pylon on the left side of the map, though, near that 3rd base, which is kind of funny.
I think he does. No, I guess I don't see it.
Don't see one.
I thought I saw him put one over there, but maybe I was misseeing that. There is one on the right side, though.
Yeah. Well, here comes this push. This is what we were talking about. This is going to hit a bit faster. Didn't commit to those Banshees. Will have all of his upgrades finishing in just a moment, but it looks like Classic is pretty ready. He already has 4 sentries with energy saved up, has a couple of Stasis Wards down, and pylons ready at the waiting for overcharges at the 3rd base. So aLive kind of deciding to put down his own 3rd base and say, well, I'm not going to break into this Protoss base. They've kind of figured out how to hold these Terran pushes on their early 3rd base, so let's just go into a macro game.
Well, I guarantee you the Protoss is going to be able to hold against the Terran push if it never actually happens. And it looks like, once again, aLive is staying back and choosing to play it safely instead of getting out on the map and doing a whole lot. He's been good at scouting around to try to stop these proxy pylons from coming up and stop any Oracle harass or Adept harass coming his way. In fact, he totally walled off his natural this time, so playing ultra defensively, and because of that, Classic's allowed to just expand out of control and start to get this 4th base at the gold.
I would have liked to see at least a try for a drop in the main. Like I was saying, I mean, it's relatively easy to just boost your medevacs over there, get them into the main. It's very spread out from the 3rd base to the main to get your Mothership Core in position. You either need to keep it at the 3rd or the main. Classic was ready with about 4 Adepts in his main. Could have warped in more if a drop did come, but I would have to agree with you. I think aLive is definitely missing out on some activity. At least is able to cancel this for him.
Yeah, I was going to say, that's the exact activity that you need. Get out there on the map, see what's going on and where you need to strike. Well, that's where. So he will cancel this 4th, but he won't be able to cancel it a 2nd time if if Classic's army is there. Good job dealing with these Adepts who don't shade in and go for the economic damage, and allows aLive to take them out. Things definitely going differently this game. Glad to see aLive has figured out exactly how he needs to change things up.
Yeah, it's a much more measured approach. You know, get one little objective over at the 4th base and then back off play defensively once again. He's trying to get double upgrades. He's spreading out his own Widow Mines as Classic is spreading out his Stasis Wards. And now he's moving his army down towards the bottom. I feel like he's looking for other pylons that I was alluding to before that Classic didn't have.
Yeah, he keeps finding these adepts. Great job knowing what Classic's means of harassment is going to be, even as a Viking already in position to push this Warp Prism away.
Yeah, this is a great start to get into the mid-game. This is definitely very even in this one right now. aLive is about to max out. Classic does have the better tech, as he is going for double Colossus with range into the Storm, looking a lot like game number 1, but aLive definitely could try to put on some pressure.
I mean, I just want to see it happen. It really has just not been a hallmark. In fact, he's going to be facing a big warp in his own base, and I almost promise you it's just going to force him to pull back again.
There we go. That's going to be just 4 Adepts.
He's really going to walk all the way home.
He didn't even warp in.
He's going to walk all the way back home. Maybe he's just going to try for a 4th base cancel. I hope he doesn't go all the way back
right
home.
Now. There is the warp in, and aLive just not close enough right now. You know, he's trying to poke forward. He's trying to get the Stasis Ward. He's getting one at a time, but Classic is buying so much time for his Adepts to get crazy amounts of damage. Classic might even just give up his golds. I mean, already 24 Adepts, or rather SCVs have gone down.
Yeah,
they can stay in here, stop the 3rd base from mining. Classic doesn't really need this gold right now. Might still fight.
Yeah.
We'll see what he wants to do.
He's still 25 SCVs. Like, I don't know, that's just way too much damage. And even if this gold does go down, there's even more SCVs falling back in the back. This huge warp into the depths. There's just not enough. Marauders do not kill Adepts, guys. I mean, eventually they do, but not quickly enough. Now, gotta watch out for that Colossus. It's a little bit too far forward, but just plenty of Stalkers here at the front. They'll even be able to blink to dodge a few of these shots. Beautiful force field segmenting aLive's armies. He's lost 33 SCVs behind this in Classic. Will lose his 4th base, but his army is still intact.
Yeah, there were just no Vikings to deal with this. Just the one that he made earlier on. And so he couldn't get on top of the Colossi because of those great force fields, and the Liberators were just too far forward, right? It was too much. He went too far, and they were taken out before they could do any critical damage. So Classic loses his gold, but he should be okay with that. Has a very strong army. He's even getting Storm at this point in time.
Yeah, if presidents were casters, they'd call that bigly damage. Lots.
Yeah.
Many damages.
He's got the best units. That is what they say about the Protoss.
I mean, they look pretty good so far. Adept's able to not penetrate the natural because of the wall, but second time's a charm for getting a Warp Prism in. Classic gets a huge warp in, takes out most of aLive's economy, and you know everybody wants to make mule memes, right? But that's a lot of damage. He's down 40 supply, just about, and the army cut in half, literally by those force fields. Classic doing a great job defending and attacking at the same time. And
here we go again. Oh no! The one dastardly Warp Prism is going to do it.
To be fair, aLive's sort of circumventing this problem. This is where you put your finger to the head and you do your thinking meme about how you can't kill SCVs in the main if there are no SCVs in the main. There were a few of them there, and those will die, and maybe even more to follow. aLive just can't figure out whether to commit and have his army cut off by force fields or run back home and be a little bit too late to save his economy.
Vikings getting to work.
That's how you do it.
Who wins that fight, actually? I think the Vikings would.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure the Vikings win that. And these are pretty upgraded Adepts, to be fair, but look at this. Classic just really has aLive's number. He's able to take out these Widow Mines. He's even going to be able to blink on this army if he wants to. There's no Liberators. There's no Ghosts. Nothing to deal with this big Protoss ball.
Yeah, and he will just retreat with his tail between his legs. Going to pick up and roam out of there, looking potentially for another drop at the 4th base if he can hide his army for long enough, but Classic seems to have sniffed this out and is now about 60 supply ahead.
All Classic needs to do is just not die.
Oh, he sees it.
Yeah.
He's like, oh yeah, okay.
Oh my god.
Cool story, bro.
Watch him blink all over those medevacs to kill every single one of them.
Yeah, the Stalkers are going north, no doubt.
Okay.
You can see it on the mini-map.
So I think what he's going to try to do
the Medivacs went back. Okay.
Intercept that or realize that aLive's army is way across the map and hit down here at the 4th base. All he really needs to do is stop this 4th base from ever coming up, and I feel like he just wins immediately after that.
Yeah, I think he could even just attack, right? He could just like go in there to the natural and say, "What's up? It's my base now."
Yeah, this is the meme strat. He protects, and then he attacks immediately afterwards. There's the blink forward. I feel like he was even expecting some Liberators. Nope, those are not there. Even though these Vikings are going to
He has so much energy, he doesn't know what to do with it. He can't even use it all.
You get a storm, and you get a storm, and Classic gets a 2-0 victory over aLive.
Yeah, made that one look easy. Very, very one-sided. Even though at times it looked like aLive was holding on, it was just Classic getting so far ahead. There was really no pressure throughout the game. He had a decent snipe at the gold that one time, but that was about it. And Classic looking stronger than ever. He's 5-2 now, really liking his chances to make it into playoffs.
I really am too. Classic looks continually improved. Still want to see him shore up his PVZ. That's been really innovative, and then kind of took a hit once Zergs figured it out. But versus Terran, he's been very, very good. And for aLive, just not a lot of great decision-making. He looked kind of confused. Do I go and attack? Do I try to stop this economic damage? Game 2, he tried, but Classic, like life, just finds a way.
Classic looking good. He did have that rough series against Dark, but at least he was able to take a game. And if we just look at the players who are up at the top right now who have big chances to make it into playoffs, it's a lot of Protoss players. It's Stats, it's Deer. There's Dark up there as well. Innovation is close, as is Maru. But you think about the other 2 Zerg players, it's Solar and Biel, and they're down near the bottom. So I think as long as he makes it into playoffs, he shouldn't really have to worry about playing that PVZ, unless he runs into Dark.
Well, I mean, he also has other tournaments, too, and I'm just like, okay, well, this is kind of that little puzzle piece that needs to be put in there. For aLive, he's got a lot of jigsaw puzzles left to construct. I do believe
it's a lot of fun to figure them out, I guess, if you have a lot of those pieces that you have to fill in, right?
One way to put it.
Yeah.
I believe that knocks him out of contention for the playoffs, so
yeah,
he probably
won't 2-5.
Won't be seeing a whole lot more of aLive. Biel, also another player that will be watching play a little bit later on. He will be playing for his daily money, but not able to make it to playoffs anymore.
He's playing for his SSL salary. He's like, maybe this time I can make $700 or $800 instead of $200 or $300. But guys, we are going to go to a quick commercial break. When we come back, we got Innovation versus Biel.